Hi everyone, welcome back to the Art of Scumming. Thank you for tuning in. And today I want to talk about Nurgle. Today's video isn't to necessarily rip on the Nurgle faction or anything. I think everybody's kind of beaten that horse to death at this point in time. We all know that Thrones of Decay has been delayed at this point in time, and I'm assuming that it's going to show up somewhere around mid-year next year, and I think that that is way too long to fix this faction. I think that there are simple changes that CA could make right now that would get people playing the faction and get them excited about the upcoming DLC. You might talk about dwarves and empire and, you know, stuff, whatever. The Warhammer 3 faction should be the cream of the crop, and Nurgle is just not playing optimally at this point in time. And like I said, the tools already exist to make this playable and fun without doing really a whole lot of work. And let me explain, starting with the settlements. So if we go in here, say I want to build just a basic settlement building, $2,000 to start out with. Now I understand that you build it once, you buy once, cry once, and it goes around and it continuously does the thing. Got it. You're paying for it all up front. It makes it prohibitively expensive to do so, to the point where oftentimes I'm leaving spaces blank simply because I don't have the funds to be able to do it in the early game. And I understand they wanted this campaign to play slower and more turtley. Got it. But what they've done with the conglomeration of these different facets of the mechanics have turned it into a slog for no reason, and it's just unfun to play. So if we go into like the advanced military buildings, or let's go to the standard military buildings, $5,000. Advanced military buildings, $10,000 to build these buildings. That means I'm getting one of them, maybe. I'm probably not building this building chain until like mid-game because it's just so prohibitively expensive. You don't need to change the value listed in the database for these settlement buildings. Leave them the same. Tie it to corruption. We know if you look at the lore that Chaos is all about spreading their corruption and corrupting the world. They already have this mechanic. It's down here in the corner. When you're even, it's the same, right? When there's zero corruption in the province, like 0 to 20 or whatever, it still costs you $10,000 to build this building. But you get it up to like tier 2, minus 100%, right? So now it's 5,000. And then you go up another one, minus 200 or 500 or 300 or something like that. And keep incrementing it up until, like, when you're at max corruption, make this building cost like 1,000, right? Make it a 10x reduction in the cost of this building, so that when you take a settlement or a province, it is in your best interest to boost that corruption as much as you can before you really start building infrastructure in the area. It still makes it that sort of growing sense, but it doesn't turn it into this, I literally have to wait for 5 or 6 turns, store up money so I can build this building so I can get access to these units. Like, it doesn't make it fun. And I think that if they just made that simple tweak, then you could fix a lot of the slowness problems or the slog problems of the Nurgle campaign. The other thing that I think Kugath could really benefit for, and I really caution the mindset that I'm about to state here from being too broadly implemented. I think that if we go to a Festus campaign, Nurgle instantaneously recruits, just like in the Warband recruitment of the Warriors of Chaos. And again, I caution saying this, Nurgle is the only demon faction that it makes sense to integrate something like the Warband upgrade system. I think that you start out Kugath's campaign with a whole bunch of Nurglings. They gain experience, some of them get eliminated, etc., etc. It's already a thing to upgrade various demon types. Make it so that we can take this Nurgling up to a Plague Bearer, up to something else. In fact, if you read the lore, Kugath started as a Nurgling. So the lore is there to be able to use this already existing warband upgrade system to benefit Nurgle for preserving their units, because right now that's not a thing. You basically just get them, waste them, replace them later. Even though Nurgle units are somewhat precious because it takes a long time to recruit them, it makes sense, at least for the demons on Nurgle, to be able to upgrade the demonic units from base all the way up through. I mean, we already see this when we look at the Marauder. You start at the Marauder, it can go up this way all the way to Spawn, it can go up to Chosen, it can go up to Knights. There's no reason that we can't do that expressly with the demons, starting with Nurglings for Nurgle. And again, I want to be clear, this should not be across the demon factions. This should be solely for Nurgle because their whole thing is growth. The biggest problem with Nurgle's start position, or Kugath's start position, is that if I were to initiate a plague here, it would not spread to here. It would not spread to here, and it would not spread to here. Even though this is all one province, those plagues do not spread across water, which is completely antithetical to the lore. If you read the lore, particularly the end times, you read about how the passages that Lewin Leoncoeur was trying to take to Reichland, to Altdorf, to try to save the empire there, was choked with Nurgle corruption, blocking the waterways. It is, again, antithetical to the lore that the disease that is Nurgle cannot spread over water. And I think that, again, this doesn't need to be all corruption, but in my opinion, if you have a sea, these are already regions defined, and they have replenishment capabilities and all that sort of stuff. There's no reason that something like Nurgle corruption can't also impact the sea. It would be very simple to determine that. You would just simply say, hey, this corruption can start spreading plagues over on a coast that shares a sea, again, contested or shared, with a complete province that's at full corruption. So if I take this entire province and I've got 100% corruption, then the sea should start leaching corruption into it. And then, of course, if you've got a faction over here like Emmerich that prefers to be untainted, their buildings can try to fight the corruption, but we already have all the mechanics here to deal with corrupting the seas and have plagues be able to spread across waterways. Now, you could say that, this is supposed to be a great ocean. Okay, we'll divide it up. Make this part, make the immediate surrounding area the sea for this, and then it touches up over here. But then you have another intermediate sea in between them that prevents the spread, or slows the spread, so to speak, so that you can make it incremental. And then the last thing that Kugath desperately needs, and I would also say Festus, because I'm 50 turns into a Festus campaign right now, and I'm almost completely stopped using this mechanic, simply because at some point it doesn't do, it's not as impactful. So I think that you could just bump all this stuff up. I think that control +6 is fine. Cycle time -1, that's fine. Recruitment capacity, -2, that's not very impactful, right? Make it -3 or 4, so, or with a limit of 1, for instance. So don't completely shut off recruitment in an area, but make it really dampened, because there are some factions in the area that can recruit 14 units, in a sitting. See the Skaven, which I like that they can do that. Chance of plague spreading, increase it from 20%, make it 100. Okay, make it 100. If I put this on there, I want basically every other turn plagues to be spreading. Attrition, increase the attrition, and make this impact the garrison as well. Defensive supplies drastically increase the defensive supply, or drastically decrease the defensive supplies. And make it auditable so that we can see if that's actually happening or not. Ammunition minus 40%, that's okay. That one's okay. Plague duration, 10 turns. Make the plague duration 10 turns. Speed, infantry units, 10%. That's a pretty decent debuff. That's probably all right. Attrition plus 50%. Casualties, 100%. Plus 100%. Make this... this is supposed to be deadly. Make it seem deadly instead of just... the purpose of this in my campaigns is just to keep units from replenishing. Wait a minute. It's actually... there's one of them that enables attrition. Excuse me. One of these... yeah, this one. Right? I use this simply to keep the campaign movement range down and keep them from replenishing. If I'm going to do this and then pair it with plus 50%, make it plus 100%. Make it worth my while to spend the extra 50. Range 10%, accuracy 20, that's fine. Make this more impactful, make it 10. This is fine, I like that. Make this 300 instead of 150. Make it a solid 300, make it really worth your while. 15% weapon damage, fine. 20% missile strength, fine. Armor minus 40%, that's fine. Casualty replenishment rate. Make this way more impactful. So if I'm going to do this, right? If I'm going to do this one, make this minus 14. So we got a total of minus 21%. They're basically not replenishing at all, right? So again, most of this stuff that I just went over in this video is database changes. This could be done in an afternoon, and I'm not even, a coder, right? You know where the values are, you go change them. You tweak this and change the tags so that instead of growth, growth should be rapid, much more rapid than this. Like Festus has already got plus 75 every single time they win a battle, man. Like something like that. Take growth out of there and give us construction cost reduction. Anyway, what do you think about this? Is this something that you would derive good enjoyment from when you're playing as Nurgle? Because as far as I'm concerned, I really like playing this campaign. It's just I get really tired of it really quick because it's just like, oh, well, we have to do this again. We have to wait around for a whole bunch of turns to get enough money to be able to do this, that, and the other. And it just slows it down to the point where it makes it unfun. I don't want to play it anymore. So these changes, if they were implemented, would completely change the way Nurgle plays without a whole lot of substantive input from CA. Anyway, thanks for watching the Art of Save Scumming. Hopefully we'll see you on another one here pretty soon.